So I just want to walk you through the BodySense book and journal and why I wrote the books the way that I did. We've got the BodySense for fitness and health professionals that kind of is the sister book. So this one is intended for clients to really help them get to grips with what's coming up for them in the training process and the process of change, and all that that encompasses in our personal lives, within ourselves, how we manage stress, how we prioritize things in our life, how it impacts relationships and our ideas and identity of ourselves. And then the book for fitpros is got the same introduction to things like boundaries and contracts, what our roles are and how we present in different roles and why that happens. But then we will also have more about that specifically to do with the training and treatment goal and the setting and what the role of the therapist or the trainer is, developing on that conversation, and then looking at the ethical aspects, areas around boundary contact and boundaries specifically relating to things that will come up from the trainer's perspective or the therapist's perspective. We might have aspects. I speak quite extensively about boundaried connection. So how we stay both really connected but boundaried at the same time. Okay, and that can be quite a tricky road to navigate. The idea of being not overly friendly. So you're friendly without necessarily it becoming a personal relationship. And how do you manage that, but actually know that you're having a deep impact on somebody's life and personal development. So there's a real crossover, and there's a big part that I talk about where the trainer is in their professional role, but the client is in their personal role and often a very vulnerable place with that. And then how we can support clients as well in using these building blocks of the present experience, the 5 core organizers. And this is a very sensory motor, somatically integrative way of working and being aware, really holding awareness. And this is a big part of what I do as well. And I relate these aspects to the window of tolerance and staying sensitive of trauma impact in mindfulness, where a lot of people aren't comfortable, and maybe it won't necessarily just be through trauma, but aren't comfortable going to that place of stillness, which is an important element, but we can get it in lots of different ways, a little bit like active rest. And then when we look at goal-directed allostasis and how we stay motivated when we reach our goals. So this is another kind of area that I go into more in the book for fitpros. And then the BodySense book and journal. So this, let's just go through these kind of opening pages. You can see from the intro and the overview, we look at roles, boundaries, contracting, how we move from comfort to growth, and then how we start accounting for these internal processes, the way stress appears and how we tolerate that in our life and make it a biological advantage rather than disadvantage, how we stay motivated, and then having aspects of the journal. And this aspect of vulnerability and strength kind of weaves all the way through the book, how I use transactional analysis and what the main model of that is. And then we look at the roles, relational needs that are important in all of the relationships that we have, whatever quadrant we might be in, plenty of space to reflect on feelings and thoughts, what's coming up in our body, starting to introduce that interoceptive awareness, that inner body awareness, how we make meaning of that according to old stories and where we are now. This is what I spoke a little bit about yesterday in my live, the structure, strokes, and stimulus. So the human hungers that we have in relationship. And the way we manage time. So a little bit, so every now and then you have these pages, how you can use this. And I relate aspects that have come up in the chapters to what you can do. So these bullet points on what you can actually do. Talking about boundaries, why they're important, the roles that they have, and how they present for us. And then how we make contracts, how we develop an agreement with ourselves, with the people that we're working with, how we build resilience and that connection to ourself and begin to move from comfort to growth, building routines and rituals, building safety and trust, and this aspect of intrinsic motivation. So what's our why, basically? What's coming from the inside of us that motivates us to do a thing that will impact our lives positively and give us purpose and meaning? And then taking these things into a few different models, and looking at the emotions, what happens when we have different emotions and when they present in the body, when we are stressed, how we respond to the stress in our life. Great book that I've drawn on a little bit here, called Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. And their connections, the way that they spoke about burnout having a very clear element of emotional exhaustion that often we don't account for, and we really don't account for in the recovery. And why sometimes movement as a stress response is not always the whole answer. Okay, and then just building in the aspects, all the biological aspects, and how to use this in everyday life, and how we start to account for what's going on within ourselves. And this leads back into some of the role stuff that I talk about earlier in the book. And then there's a little bit of the science that connects the biology to the biography. If you're a visual person, it's just a different way of talking about it. And we go all the way through talking about embodiment and what the importance of that is, and the interoceptive part that is part of embodiment, as well as proprioception, extraception, and neuroception, and the idea that we can update, and how we can use movement strategies for different things. And then this is my model, the 6 Ps that you've heard me talking about before. Fantastic poem by Rich Roll, which I'm sure we all know, that I think is really pertinent to whatever behavior we're used to using, and why maybe making a different choice can be more healthy and helpful. And entropy. So entropy is a kind of growing area of health awareness, and the ways that so you either have entropy or negative entropy. There's no other opposite of entropy. It's only, and entropy is the process of degeneration. And so if you're in negative entropy, then that is where you're maintaining health. And a fantastic research paper by Wang, he identified 4 measures that help us to contribute to negative entropy, to maintaining health, which is self-organizing, self-defending, self-healing, and anti-wear and tear capacity, building that anti-wear and tear capacity. So I really start to link this a lot into how we use not just our motivation, but our sense of self, how we connect to ourself and organize from our internal space, and use the breath, and then feed the nervous system in a healthy way, and let that feed our movement in a healthy way. And that then leads into embodiment, and we can expand from here. And so we have so much more capacity to use our parasympathetic as a state of embodied self-knowing that becomes our healing and our resilience. And this is just what I build on all the way through the book. Motivation aspects, decision latitudes, and then all through here we meet the journal. And I build in different check-ins, the menstrual map, the feeling wheel, your daily planners, and then a bit of weekly planners. Important things to refresh your mind, just bringing back in some of the first part of the book, remembering our time structure when we go into our weekly planner. How are we showing up? And how are we showing ourselves compassion, priority, permission, protection, all those things that we need to update and stay resilient and have joy and celebration. And then there's a food bit as well, how we nourish, some gratitude, roadmaps, goal setting, how we then feed back into that goal maintenance that I spoke about. And so the reason that I have the 2 books is so that there's a framework and a language for coaches and clients to work together and build the conversation. So, and then obviously I build on that through the Art and Science coaching program, my online 10-week coaching program. The last day of the early bird offer, that's £200 off, is available today. And if you would like to know more about how to have some one-to-one coaching with me, that's 4 sessions of one-to-one coaching over the 10 weeks and 3 months beyond that. And guest speakers, the 10 weeks of online coaching in a small group, your own copies of these books, and then how to help your clients use the journal as well and the framework that you're developing for yourself. So do get in touch with me. I would love to have a chat with you, and I would love to have you on the course and contributing your experience and wealth of knowledge as well, if this really resonates with you. Speak to you soon.